At 16 years old, what happened? Why was she left for dead?
All of a sudden, I just felt a gun on the back of my neck.
Now she's in a wheelchair. What happened?
He says to the cousin, "Do you think I should?" And I'm like, what?
She survived a bullet to the back of the neck. Miraculously, she survived. And now she tells her story.
On the ground, you heard the gunshot. What did you feel?
Next on The Shon Brown Show. Here's your host, Shon Brown. The Shon Brown Show, discussing today's issues and making it personal.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Shon Brown Show, where we teach, encourage, and we build. My name is Shon Brown, and I am your host, and I am so excited to have Courtney Elaine in the building. Courtney was shot in the neck at age 16, and she was left paralyzed. A lot of us might not know what it feels like to be paralyzed. So many times we go day to day throughout our daily activities, and we see so many people in wheelchairs, and we don't understand how they start their day and how they end their day. But we're gonna talk about it on the Shon Brown Show. So Courtney, tell me, how did this all begin for you?
Well, it happened when I was 16. I started my normal day like a normal teenager does. I got up that morning. I went to school, had a great day at school, and I came home and I did something that I was not supposed to do.
Okay, typical kid.
My mom had a conversation with me about not leaving out of the house to go outside until she got home. Well, it happened in October, so of course the time had moved forward, so it was getting darker earlier.
Right.
And I was like, I did not want to wait until she got home to go outside.
Right.
So I decided that I was going to write her a note, let her know where I would be. A lot of the kids hung out at an apartment in the complex on a normal basis. So I wrote in a note, that's where I would be. I left, and that's where I went.
Okay.
I was over there hanging out with one of the girls that lived in the apartment. She was the play sister to my boyfriend at the time, and we would hang out all the time. So we were hanging out in front of her apartment in front of the stairs.
And how old were you at this time? I think you said you were 16 years old? 16 years old, okay.
And she was 13. And so we just were out there hanging out in front of the stairs, talking, laughing. We had gotten the radio, and we were listening to the radio and kind of just dancing. Mm-hmm. And so my boyfriend's cousin and his friend ended up walking past us. And we, gave them some small talk, said, hey, asked, like, where are you going? And they said, we're going across the street. And they were basically, kind of like, don't worry about it. But then they said, well, we're going across the street. So we were like, okay. So we kind of looked at each other like, I wonder where they going. Like, why didn't they take, everybody with them? So we stayed there, we're still talking. And then I see my boyfriend and his stepdad and another friend in a car getting ready to leave. So we asked, like, where are y'all going? He said, we're going to the store. Have you seen the other two? We said, yeah, they went across the street. And he said, well, we're leaving them. Like, we're about to go to the store and we're just going to leave them. And I said, okay. He said, well, let them know if you see them again that we went to the store. I said, okay. And then we continued to laugh and talk. And then something in me said, where did they go? Right. Like, why aren't they with them? Why didn't they go to the store? And why didn't they know where they were going? And she said, yeah, I wonder why they didn't know. And I was like, that's kind of suspicious or whatever. Right. So I said, you want to be nosy? And she was like, yeah. I was like, let's go across the street and see where they went. Mm-hmm. And she was like, okay. So we headed across the street to see if we could find them. And we were like, if they catch us over there being nosy, snooping, we just gonna say, oh, well, they were looking for y'all, And she was like, okay. So we go over there, we're looking for them, and we tried to get into the apartments, but the walk-through gate was locked. So we were like, okay, well, whatever. So we walked along the sidewalk of the apartments and we got down to the exit gate, which was across the street from our entrance gate. And so just as we were crossing the street to head back to the apartment, we saw them. And so we were like, I said, oh, there they are. And she was like, oh, okay, cool. So I said, hey, you know, they were looking for y'all. They said they were going to the store. So they said, okay. And they said, well, how do we get out of here? So we helped them get out the gate. We started walking back across the street. And I told us, the guys walked past us. And I said to the girl, I said, hey, watch the cousin. I was like, girl, he is so funny. I was like, he is just like Martin. And I was like, just watch him. Like, his mannerisms are just so funny.
And Martin is that your boyfriend?
Martin Lawrence.
Oh, Martin Lawrence.
Yeah.
Okay.
So back then, because that was in 97,
Martin
so
was
Martin was big,
right.
you know. And so all his mannerisms were just like Martin. So I said, watch him. Any minute, he going to do something that's going to remind us of Martin.
Right.
So just the thought of that made us both laugh. So we're laughing, and he turns around and he says, what are y'all laughing at? And I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, it's nothing.
It's girl stuff.
Yeah, like, don't even worry about it, you know. And he was like, he said, And we kind of just looked at each other, me and the girl, and then we burst out laughing again. Mm-hmm. And once we started laughing, he said, you know I don't like you, right? And I said, and? He says, I don't like you. And I said, well, you don't have to like me because you're not my boyfriend. So, and I just started walking past him as I was saying this.
So did you have a relationship with this guy as far as, did you see him a lot, or did he even know you to say, I don't like you?
Me and this guy, we had gone to middle school together, and we actually went to high school together as well. He was a grade higher than I was in. So we met in my 7th grade year, his 8th grade year. We liked each other at one point, and we ended up getting into an argument in school, and he took my arm, twisted behind my back, and threw me up against the lockers. And when he did this, it put me in a situation where I was like, what? Like, why would you do that? And so after that, it was just like, you don't talk to me, I don't talk to you. Okay. Like, we don't like each other. And then 2 years later, I started dating my boyfriend at the time, and I'm in his house, and you know how families have pictures around, and I'm looking at the pictures, and I see this guy, and I'm like, wait, how do you know him?
Right, small world.
Yes. And he says, that's my cousin. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
He said, yeah, that's my cousin. I'm like, wait, like, a distant cousin? Like, he's like, no, like my first cousin. And I'm like, oh my God.
But no daily dealings with him for him to just say, I don't like you, other than that past. Which
Other than the
2
past,
years
it
ago.
had happened at least 2 years prior.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so y'all were walking and...
Yeah, he said that to me, and it obviously pissed the both of us off. And I was just like, dude, you don't have to like me. Like, I'm not in a relationship with you. Like, we can be in the same space and not like each other, and it'd be just fine. But it irritated me in my soul that he would have the nerve to say something like that. So I kind of got snappy with him. We were snappy with one another. As I'm saying this to him, I'm walking past him, because at this point we've stopped in the middle of the street. So I've walked past them. I'm going into the entrance gate and the side one, the one that you walk through. And at that time, I don't know why I went through that particular gate, but I think that I was so mad that I was just about to go home. Like, I just didn't want to deal with them. I didn't want to deal with the girl. I just wanted to go home. And so as I'm walking through the gate, the guys say, wait, turn around. And I'm like, what? And so I turn around, and then I start walking back towards them. And they say, wait, no, turn back around. And I'm like, what? What do you want? And so I turn back around, I'm facing the gate, and they say, come here. And I'm like walking backwards. They're standing on a curb. I keep walking, and as I'm walking backwards, I'm like, what do you want? Like, just leave me alone or whatever. Like, I don't even want to talk to you at this point. And so I keep walking back until my heels hit the curb, and I had nowhere else to go. I just stopped. And when I stopped there, I stopped and I said, so what is it? What do you want? You know, being a female, with me walking backwards, being that young, I'm like, do I have something on my clothes?
Right.
You know, like, what's going on? Like, why am I walking backwards? And so I sit there and I'm like, what? And all of a sudden I just felt a gun on the back of my neck. And I'm like, standing there like, it's really going on, you know? And the guy says, not the cousin, but the friend, he says to the cousin, do you think I should? And I'm like, what? And I said, say no. Just say no. And he said again, do you think I should? I repeated the same thing. I called out his name and I said, say no.
And he was just sitting there silent.
He said absolutely nothing. The girl was standing off to the side of me. She said nothing. I guess she was just in shock. I put my hands over my face as I'm saying it, because I'm like, at that point, I'm thinking to myself, why is he not saying anything? The next thing I knew, I heard a gunshot and I was on the ground.
Oh my God. On the ground, you heard the gunshot. What did you feel? I mean, what happened? What's going on through your mind?
I immediately fell to the ground because my hands were over my face. It was just darkness, and I could just hear her screaming. I heard them running, and then I moved my hands from my face, and I could see them running through the entrance gate, which was open at the time because it was broken. So I could see them running through that gate. And I just immediately thought, okay, you fell. You got to get up. And so I began to get up, and the first thing that I did was lift my head. And once I lifted...
Hold on. So you're telling me you didn't feel any pain. You just thought you fell. So that means at this point in time, you don't even feel anything, no pain in your neck, that you've been shot, none of that.
No.
You just thought you fell.
I thought that I had been pushed down. I heard a gunshot, but because I didn't feel anything, I didn't think that I had been shot. I just heard it. So at that point, I didn't know what had happened. I thought that they had just pushed me down because I felt something. But what I felt like I had been pushed down. And so I was just in my head like, get up. And when I went to lift my head, that's when I saw blood. And I was like, oh, like, I must have been shot. And so I started trying to get up, and I could hear her screaming. And so I turned my head towards her. She was to the left of me. They ran towards the right. So I turned my head to the left and I called out her name to try to calm her down. And I said, hey, come help me. Come help me.
So you're calm at this time?
Very calm.
You're not hysterical?
No, not at all. She was hysterical. And I called her name and I said, come help me. Come help me get up. And she came over, and I kind of like reached my hand out for her to grab my hand. And I called her name again. I said, help me get up, help me get up. And she said, Coco, I'm trying. I was like, get me up. Like, what's going on? Help me get up. And she said, I'm trying, Coco, I'm trying. And then I was like, wait a minute. Where are my legs? And she just, like, she got extremely hysterical. They're right here, Coco, they're right here. And I'm like, no, where are they? Where are they? They're right here. And I said, I can't feel my legs. And she said, no, Coco, you gotta get up, get up, get up. And I was like, I can't get up. And she was like, no, you have to get up, get up. And I said, I can't, I'm paralyzed. And she said, what? No, get up. And I said, no, I can't get up. I need you to go call the police. I said, go call the police. She said, no, I can't leave you here by yourself. I said, yes, you can. That's the only way that I'm going to get help. I said, you have to leave.
So did she call the police or?
She left, and right before she left, a black truck was driving up into the gate. And I said, stop the truck. Like, as she was running, I said, wait, stop the truck. And she came back, she stopped the truck, a man got out. And he said, what's going on, you know? And she started telling him what had happened. He said, where did they go? She said, they ran. And he said, okay, you gotta go call the police. And at that time, you know, cell phones weren't out, but he had a cell phone. I mean, they were out, but people didn't have them like they do now. But he happened to have a cell phone. And so he told her, you go call the police and I'm gonna call them as well. And he called on his cell phone. And so then he,
So you just land on the ground until they get there. Did it take a long time or?
It didn't seem like it took a long time. We had enough time for him to kind of kneel down with me. And I said, please don't leave me. He said, oh, I'm not going anywhere. And he said, do you believe in God? And I said, yes. And he said, well, let's pray. I said, okay. And we started the Lord's Prayer, and in the middle of it, I just stopped. And I said, Lord, please don't let me die. I don't want to die. I'm not ready to die yet. I just want to see my brother grow up. I just want to see him grow up. And then we finished the prayer, and the guy said, it's going to be okay. Like, you're going to make it. And he said, do you believe that? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, well, help is on the way. And I said, okay, just don't leave me. He said, I won't. And the first cop came, and the guy was still there. I said, don't leave me, don't leave me. He said, I'm not. The second cop got there, and then the ambulance came, and they said, we got to get her up. You have to leave. Right. You have to step over to the side. I said, no, don't leave me. And they said, do you know him? I said, no, I don't know him. And he stepped off to the side. They said, he's just going to be right over there. And I said, okay. And he waited there with me, and they got me off the ground.
So did they ever catch the guy that shot you?
Mm-hmm.
And yes. How much time did he serve?
He was sentenced 27 years. He was supposed to go up for parole after 14. He served 7 years.
7 years? Wow. That's crazy for something like that to get out in 7 years.
Absolutely.
Do you have any contact with them? Have you spoken to any of them since?
I've spoken to the ex-boyfriend, and then the older sister of the girl that I was hanging out with. Wow. We all used to hang out together. Mm-hmm. She reached out to me on Facebook. They found me. And I just spoke briefly to her, and she was like, my sister wants to talk to you. And I just said, no, I'm not interested.
So closure. Do you have closure?
I do.
You do have closure.
Mm-hmm.
I know at one point when we were chatting before, you talked about wondering why the guy just shot you in the neck. Mm-hmm. Just no reasons why.
For a long time, I hadn't gotten a reason why. Mm-hmm. And ironically, it's just, or I won't even say ironically, just God just works in mysterious ways. We actually went to the same high school. Mm-hmm. He was 3 years older than me. Mm-hmm. So he was at the school prior to I was. Mm-hmm. And there was a lady, an art teacher that worked there, and she knew him. Mm-hmm. And she knew his mother. And one day I was at school, and I was stopped in the hallway by her. And she said, hi, Courtney. And I was like, hi. And I just was wondering, like, how does she know me? She said, I know you don't know me, but I know. And she gave the guy's name. And I was like I didn't want to talk to her. Mm-hmm. And she said, I know it's hard, but I've been talking to him. And I've gotten letters from him, and I just want to give you a message from him. And she said, he wants you to know that he's sorry and that he doesn't know why he did it.
Wow.
And I was like, are you kidding me?
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
So talk about your transition. You're in a wheelchair now. You're 16 years old. You have school. That's different. Can you talk about how that transition was for you being in a wheelchair amongst a lot of other children who are not?
Well, I took homeschool for a year after that. So it was the beginning of my sophomore year when it happened. So I finished that year off in homeschooling, and I took summer school. When I got back, it was completely different. I felt like because I had been gone for so long, a lot of the friends that I had, they were still like friends, but they became more like associates. So when I got back to school, I had one friend that was just like down for the cause.
Ride or
like,
die.
Yes. And then she was like, okay, we're finna do this. I'm gonna help you get from here to there and all of that. And I was like, just thank God for her, because I felt like even though, I had all of these friends, it was hard. It was a hard transition for them as well. And so she became that person that just stuck with me. So it was hard to get back and get in the mix of things.
I know a lot of people become bitter from situations and adversities as this. Are you bitter?
No.
Have you ever been bitter?
I had to think about that. I think in the beginning, there was some bitterness, and the reason why is because he was in jail, and that was supposed to be a punishment. But I was the one who was really punished. Being in the chair, not being able to move in the way that I was before, that was far more of a punishment than it was for him to be able to be in a jail. Nowadays you watch TV, you still can get the food that you like, in the commissary or whatever. He still was able to walk. He still was able to move his body. So the person who was really in prison was me. Because all of my abilities were taken away from me. I went from being able to do any and everything by myself to being like a baby all over again. I could not write. I could not talk. I couldn't do anything for myself.
Wow.
So all of those things I had to learn all over again.
Hold on. Did you say you couldn't talk?
I couldn't talk. I had tubes down my throat for a very long time. And then even when they were taken out, my voice was not the same. I spoke very low.
So you had a lot of therapies, speech.
I had occupational therapy and physical therapy. I could speak, but in the same way, it's just that it wasn't loud. It took some time before I was able to speak louder.
So what were your biggest challenges? I know so many people, depression is very popular today, mental health, mental illness. Were you depressed? Do you have PTSD? Talk about some of the struggles and the issues that you had from all of this.
Well, my first struggle was gaining my independence. I was determined. Like there was no way that I was about to have people consistently doing things for me. And so that was my first challenge. I just wanted to get to the point where I was able to do everything on my own. I was automatically medicated for depression, PTSD, all of that. So I was seeing a psychologist and a psychologist at the time, or a psychiatrist and a psychologist at the time. And so I did not experience any real depression until years later, when I was beginning to be weaned off of the medication. Then life hit me, and depression hit me. Prior to that, I didn't feel it, and then that became a challenge as I was going into college.
So how did you get through it?
I had a whole plan. When I went into college, I was going to school for criminal justice, and I ended up at a community college, and the depression started to hit me. But I was in a photography class and I was in a design class, and those became the things that I did to keep me from being depressed. So I ended up completely changing my major. And those are the things that have gotten me through. Just being able to create through photography, through performance art. Those are the things that kind of got me through.
So whose idea was it to wean you off the medication? Was it your idea of saying, I don't want to be on a medication? Or was it your doctor's? Or how did y'all agree to do that? Because that's a big transition.
It was my idea. When I was first injured, I was on so many pills. Like I was heavily medicated for this, that, and the other. And it had gotten to a point where all of the other medications I had been weaned off of, and I was no longer taking anything with the exception of the pills for depression. And I was like, I got this. Like, I'm doing so much better. Like, I'm doing everything on my own. And I hadn't been in a situation to where I hadn't been taking the medicine since my injury. So I was like, let's see how it works. And I think that, a combination of, not getting into the college that I wanted to go to, not really knowing much about college, and just life in general, leaving friends and going to a new school and all that kind of stuff kind of just began to weigh heavy on me. And then that's when it started to creep in.
It's good to know because a lot of people in the African American community, they don't seek help, or they have this thinking of being on medicine, depression meds or anxiety meds. And I'm here to tell you, some people, if you need help, you need to get the help. You need to get the help that you need. Courtney is telling us that you can be on the medication, but you can transition as well off the medication. But sometimes you need that help, and you need to do things that work for you. So if you need help, we want you to seek and get help from someone. But moving right along, love life, your love life. Somebody's recently gotten engaged, which I am so excited about. Y'all see that smile? She's engaged to a good-looking man. I've met him before. And
Yes,
this smile is amazing. But I'm sure you wondered about your love life in the past. I know what you've been in a wheelchair. I'm sure you've had thoughts of, if someone would want me, I'm in a wheelchair, I can't walk around, move around as good. Tell us about that transition.
Well, of course, that thought came to mind, but I've run across a lot of people who say, well, you don't look like you're supposed to be in a wheelchair, because like my style didn't change. I was still Courtney, I was still Coco. After I was injured, and like I said, I was determined to be as independent and as normal as I was before. So my thing was, when it came to dating, if you could see me and not the chair, then we can move forward. So I kind of navigated that, relationship-wise in that way. If I met somebody and they, we're like, oh, okay, I like your personality, and it led to something. If we come into my life and you automatically start asking me questions about, well, what happened to you? Why are you in a wheelchair? No. If you're looking at the chair rather than me, then I'm not really interested. Most of the people that I'm really good friends with, we went a long time before they even knew what had happened to me, because they were more interested in who Courtney Elaine is. They weren't concerned about the chair. They liked me for who I am, and that was what was important to me.
So how did the magic happen? Give us a little scoop of what is his name?
Devon.
Tell us a little bit about Devon, and how did this even happen?
We both.
A short version.
We both were in a situation where we were looking for someone. At this day and age, everything is in your phone. So we were both experimenting with dating apps, and we found each other on a dating app and began to talk through there, just messaging. And then
did he know you were in a wheelchair at that time?
I was very honest about that. I don't deal with all of the, because that's not something that you don't inform somebody about.
Right.
So, I mean, on the dating app, of course, it's a little bit more difficult. So I did have a picture of myself in my wheelchair so that there's no confusion.
Right.
And I've also put it, in my description, like if, so he knew. And then once we exchanged numbers and we started to talk a little bit more, then that was something that I discussed with him. I let him know exactly what happened. Of course, he had different pictures of me and things like that. And so we just went from there. We developed a friendship, just kind of talking over the phone. And we both got used to each other. And so then we're like, okay, we're talking on the phone. We have a good, cool little relationship. Now we're friends. Let's hang out sometime. So we had our first date, and we just kept spending time with each other from there.
And then y'all fell in love, and here you are now. That's amazing, amazing. So I do want you to touch on your physical therapy. You've been in physical therapy. I ran across you on Instagram. Y'all, she is doing it big on Instagram. I saw recently that you conquered getting over curves. I don't really think about that kind of stuff. And a lot of people don't. That getting over a curve is really, really, really hard to do. Yeah. And so I saw you in your journey where you eventually mastered being able to get up over the curb with your wheelchair. Tell us about that and some of the things. I also saw you in braces too. Explain that to us so everybody can know what's going on and what you're striving for.
Well, it's been some years since I've been in therapy. When I talk about gaining my independence, those are things that I actually learned in therapy years ago. That was all a part of being independent, being able to pop wheelies over curves, being able to push myself up a ramp and open doors for myself. Those are a lot of things that I learned. But when you don't use certain things, you lose them.
Yes. If you don't use, you lose.
And so I had gotten to a point where I was avoiding curves and I didn't want to deal with them. And so I spoke with my doctor. He wanted me to be a lot more physical than what I had been. And so I got into therapy and she asked me, what do you want to learn? And I was like, you know what? I need to master them curves because sometimes people park on the ramp. People don't park on the ramps.
Y'all, don't park on the ramps, okay?
Do not park on the ramp. So if you park on a ramp, it causes a challenge for me.
I'm guilty.
I know
I'm so guilty.
If you're on the ramp, how do I get up?
Yes.
And if I can't pop a wheelie, how do I get up?
Right.
So I wanted to make sure that I was able to do that in instances like that. And so that's the reason why that was one of the things that I wanted to work on in therapy.
But the brace things, I saw the brace things. What's going on there? Tell us what you're trying to strive to do.
Well, it's called an RGO, and it's basically a walking brace. It is to help me stand upright, get my blood flowing, and actually is to assist me with walking. So I had one some years ago, and they custom fit them to your body. So when I got into therapy, that was another thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to get back into the brace. And since I hadn't used it in so long, I didn't know how to use it anymore. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, if I take it to therapy, a physical therapist would know how to use it. But unfortunately, the one that I had was too old. She was like, I don't even know how to use this thing. So she said, well, is this a goal of yours that you really want to do? I said, absolutely, I want to walk. And so she said, well, I'm going to find somebody who can build you another frame. And I said, okay. So when the guy that can do it came in to meet me, Devon was there with me. And she was saying, oh, they're engaged. And he's like, wait a minute. Well, when are you getting married?
Right.
And I said, well, we had a date when we changed the date. And he said, how about you walk in these for your wedding? And we were both like, oh, I didn't think about that.
So you can actually walk in them. But I know you mentioned one where you stand in it, but is that two different devices?
It's two different things.
So you can stand in one and you can walk in the other. Wow.
Yeah. So they decided, oh, okay, well, this is the goal. How about we get you another RGO or walking brace, and let's get you in that. Let's get you walking in the hopes that you'll actually be able to do this at your wedding.
So are these therapies expensive or?
Extremely. The therapy is covered by my insurance. Of course, I have a copay. Right. The braces was really expensive. So my copay for the brace is still a lot of money.
Right.
So I've been wanting to get some assistance with helping to pay for that.
Awesome. So tell us, where can we follow you on social media? And also, y'all, she also has a fund where you can donate. And I want you to give us that information because we want to be a part of your journey. We want to donate. We want to give back to you. Give us that information.
Okay, I can be reached at Pushing Pretty on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And I also have a physical therapy journey that I created for GoFundMe where you're able to donate funds.
Awesome. There you have it, y'all. Another amazing story. Courtney Elaine, I am so excited. I thank you so much for coming on the Shon Brown Show. Y'all donate to her physical therapy journey. And remember, most importantly, don't park on the ground. Thanks for tuning in.